Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Hurrah! Get some. What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite long-haired jarhead, Pacho in the house. Hey, first of all, happy belated Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. And don't forget to say a quick little prayer and a little moment of silence for those who, are fighting the good fight out in, in other austere environments, in the name of freedom. So remember, everyone deployed, okay? But we got an awesome show today. We're still in the, being a little bit mobile from our, regular studios. Today we got a really awesome show. Really good friend of mine, really close friend, as well as a mentor, fellow Chief Warrant Officer himself. This dude is, he is a badass. I mean, this was the Moto T. He's what we call as some of you know, he's a chief CW5. So Chief Warrant Officer 5. So those are the unicorns. So we got Scott Mad Max Gilman in the house. What's going on, Mr.
Hey,
Gilman?
How you doing?
Good, man. Love it. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on our awesome show, man. So, hey, so right off the bat, brother. So tell me, how'd you get the name Mad Max, bro?
That's a common question. So in 2003, when we were deployed initially in Iraq, I was with what became 1st Transportation Support Group.
Okay.
And at the time, under the command of then Colonel Dave Reist. And when we went up forward, it was probably day 3. Forces were advancing pretty quickly and leaving equipment all over the place. And the method realized very quickly that the battlefield recovery plan was absent.
Oh yeah.
So I got called up to the G4 forward and got told basically, put together a recovery capability and recover everything west and north of LSA Viper, which, if you remember where Viper is,
yeah,
basically everything in Iraq. And so we went out on routine missions all over the place and recovered gear. And one day when we came back, I'd actually hooked up an AAV to one of our wreckers. We towed that thing in, and I had trailers with trucks and trailers in the beds of the trucks on the trailer. It was Sanford and Son on wheels. And just the appearance of the convoy, because we were armed to the hilt too. When I got in, did my debrief, Colonel Reist, he dubbed me Mad Max at that point. He goes, you're nothing short of Mad Max. So that call sign stuck, and that's something that stuck with me the whole time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I know in the Marine Corps, as well as the other armed forces, you never pick your own call sign. It kind of like you're dubbed that by whatever,
right?
By a peer or a superior or whatever the case may be. So I think you have one of the best and coolest call signs there is. Mine was Grease Monkey 1 when I was in Iraq. So basically, and because this is when we took that entire reserve unit. Remember, I was with 4th LAR.
4th LAR at the time, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's how I was. Basically, we had really good mechanics as well. But however, I was the only active duty guy with a lot of experience. So, I was just like grease monkey, and it just stuck. So, it is what it is. But that's awesome, man. So another thing is that you were chief warrant officer 5, man. I mean, that's I know even amongst our communities, we call you guys the unicorns, because to come across one of you guys, it's like, holy shit, dude, this dude is a 5. So how was that whole experience? When you achieved that rank? I mean, was it like, hey, high fives, I did it and shit?
Well, it's me, my personality, and to me, it was kind of it's the top rung in the ladder, as you know, but it gave me a little more footing for myself to be able to advise in an aggressive manner, so to speak.
Is that what we call it now?
That's what I call it. Because we're advisors, that's what we do. We advise, and it's our duty to make sure that our commanders are informed.
Right.
And how we communicate is critical. How they receive what we provide is critical. And it just gave me a little more firepower to make my point.
Right.
So that it could be heard and digested, and then of course decisions that are made. But it was, it felt better, got looked at differently.
Right.
There's just this unspoken expectation that everything, which,
right.
My key to success has been surrounding myself with people who know more than me, which is pretty easy. So, expecting to know everything is something that's a little challenging at times, but it was great. I'll tell you, the first time when the first unit that I had when I was promoted, actually I was on leave, transitioning from 1 MEF over to 3 MEF, and General Nicholson was the division commander, and I had just left the division not too long prior to that, and I asked him to promote me because we were in Fallujah together, and so he pinned me, and then when I reported into 3 MEF as the MEF Motor T officer, that was really my first assignment as a Chief Warrant Officer 5, and I remember going down to the MLG, Marine Logistics Group headquarters, to talk with the MLG commander. And as I walked into the main office, this corporal behind this wall stands up and goes, "Sir, can I shake your hand?" I'm like, "Do I know you?" "Sir, you're the first Chief Warrant Officer 5 I've ever seen." So I had coins made too, personal coins.
Right.
So I said, "Well,
hashtag I never got one.
You're not gonna get one of these very often. So here you go." So I gave him a coin. That kid was over the moon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that, and then let me ask you a question for our audience. A lot of people think that, this is a myth, which it can be somewhat true to some degree. But they expect, expectation. Oh, you're a chief warrant officer. You can pretty much chew any type of ass. You can lean on, basically lean on that lieutenant, captain, whatever. Is that true or false? What's your take on it?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. To me, I was taught long ago, respect is mutual. Respect goes both ways.
Right.
And one thing, regardless if I'm a Chief Warrant Officer 5, I'm still a great officer and still a junior to the most junior lieutenant in the Marine Corps.
True.
And what I will tell you, I've seen happen where some folks have made mistakes and ruffled some feathers. When you get a Chief Warrant Officer and has a very abrasive relationship with a junior officer, I always remind them that individual can be a general one day. And your relationship and your interaction that you have with them could shape how they treat not only, people within your community, but the entire warrant officer community. So it's kind of, you got to be respectful. To me, no matter what, respect's earned. But with the rank, especially in the situation like that, you want them to look up to you, because your job as an advisor is to advise. And if you taint that relationship and that impression, then they won't turn to those who they should be able to in the future, to make informed decisions. And at the end of the day, who pays the price? Our junior Marines.
Yeah, and also those junior, warrant officers down the road. I mean, that interaction between, those two individuals, like you said, will shape how that, colonel, maybe 1-star or more later on, how he, because of that one small interaction, that could pretty much, it'll set that a bad taste in an individual's mouth, and it'll just be something bad. But I remember, because what a lot of, I'll share with the audience that you and I, go back, quite a bit. As I got out and I came back into Marine Corps, you were one of the, you were in the first unit as I came back in. You were my staff NCO. So we're both enlisted, and so I consider you not only, a brother, a really, really close friend and family as well, but also a mentor. And one thing that you told me, because, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't be a chief warrant officer today if it wasn't for this man right here. He not only encouraged me, but he had the audacity to call my executive officer and made me put in a package, because I had put in already 5 times and I hadn't gotten it because it's very competitive. But it was because of this man.
And don't forget where I called him from either.
Yeah, you called me from Afghanistan.
Fallujah.
Yeah, Fallujah.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be here today. But you told me, when I pinned on and I got selected, you told me, and I still remember this to say, hey, it's great that you're a warrant officer, and then you have a lot of leadway. You'll be able to, get away with certain things, saying certain things. But you told me, is the ass you chew today might be the one you kiss tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I took that to heart. I mean, and no, there were times where, you had to be, firm, yet respectful, because you're right. I mean, those lieutenants, those second lieutenants, first lieutenant, they do outrank you, but you still, also want to build that relationship, because it's, as we know, in not just the Marine Corps, but any branch, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
Because you piss off that one PFC at disbursing, guess whose paycheck is going to be, might not be next month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get a big goose egg.
Yeah. But also, we've also had, similar experiences. I know, coming back from my deployment, the first one, and then the second one years later. I mean, I was at a point in my life where, and even though I was getting close to retirement, but I felt like my life was coming apart. My PTSD was just, I was doing things that I didn't understand why. I was having outbursts out in the street and those type of things. And well, I remember that phone call, very, clearly, where I just left the CO's meeting, with Steve Kaczynski, I believe. Not Kaczynski, Kaczewski's.
Yeah,
Mike Kaczewski.
I can never pronounce his damn name.
Yeah, okay. Between Craig Kaczynski and Mike Kaczewski, I always get the.
He's a general now.
Yes, yeah.
I knew he was going to be.
Yeah, but I had just left that meeting, and I was just exhausted, mentally, physically. And I was, and I had already, I was having depressive bouts and anxiety, and basically I had already formulated my plan how I was going to basically exit this life, and check out my pistol and just go ride on my bike to one of the ranges nearby, Las Pulgas camp. But I don't know, something prompted me to just, you were, because you and I have always been, very close. Something just told me, to just give you a call. And I remember, I was crying. And all you kept saying is, hey, just do me a favor. Just wait for me right there. I just want to talk to you just for a little bit. I don't know how you made it from the Division White House, because for anybody that's familiar with Camp Pendleton, I mean that's like at least 15-20 minute drive from there to there. But I mean, you made it there like mock, oh my God! And next thing you know, you walked in, and had it not been for you, I would have been, I would have committed suicide. I mean, that was my plan that day, literally. So, I just want to say I want to thank you, as and I know I've told you this before, but from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you, brother. But also, you had some similar things towards the end of your career. Could you, is it okay we talk if you share some of that with us?
Absolutely. Now, first and foremost, the good Lord put a bug in your ear to give me a call that day, and I could tell something was up.
Yeah.
And that guided by the Lord and doing His bidding. It wasn't time for you to exit, and we got things taken care of. So for me, I started out, I think, with most everybody, not really realizing things that are going on. When I got back from my first deployment, I was divorced within a year, and really within 6 months. But in hindsight, everything that all the treatments I've been through and everything, looking back, my deployment was the driving factor behind that. I had no tolerance. I'd lost patience, trust, really, with anybody. And I didn't realize how much that first deployment affected me.
Right.
Until my final tour in Okinawa, right before I came up to headquarters Marine Corps. And what I'll tell you is, one of the experiences I had doing battlefield recovery early on is, I went to get everything set up. When I asked the G6, I said, I need some comm equipment. I don't have any. And they were going to give me a Prick 119 for 6 hours. It's like, who the hell am I going to talk to? I'm going to, this might help me if I had another radio, but I don't have another radio.
Right.
And, I needed ammo for security. And it was basically told, no, we can't give you any ammo. So I ended up going out for the first 4 missions with no comm gear and 2 belts of 240 ammo.
Oh, that's nothing, man.
Yeah. And I had, 250 cals, a couple Mark 19s. I had 6 240s. So when you take and you got 2 belts of ammo and you split it up between those 6 guns, you really don't have anything.
Yeah.
And we got out to one of the positions we were stopped to do recovery. And just as we started getting set up, we took incoming fire. We took mortar fire. And it seemed like an eternity. There's about 5 or 6 rounds that came in. And through divine intervention, nobody was hurt. No equipment was damaged. They just sucked. But we couldn't find them. We couldn't see them. We didn't know where they were. Not being able to communicate with higher, not being able to respond was one of the worst feelings I ever had. Helplessness, hopelessness. And as the deployment wound down, that from that point forward, that drove my personality. I had no tolerance at that point. I questioned everything, regardless of who it came from. And in the back of my mind, if my leadership is going to put me in a position like this, what else are they willing to do?
Right.
So I had lost a lot of faith with senior leadership early on.
That seems to be going the growing trend, especially nowadays. And not to get into that subject.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
So, fast forward a few years, I'd gotten a few more assignments. I went to Okinawa for a year by myself. as a brand new divorced Chief Warrant Officer 2 at the time. And that was a fun time. And, when I got back, I wanted to go back to the division. So they sent me to truck company. So I'm back again, this time as the maintenance officer, platoon commander. So get back there a couple months after being there, we get the word that the company headquarters and maintenance platoon is deploying for 13 months to Fallujah, and we're going to be attached to the 1MEF headquarters group. So I'm like, okay, great. So we did all our workups and everything and did our deployment. A lot of craziness happened during that time.
Right.
IEDs we're getting our ass kicked by IEDs left and right. And I'll tell you, the carnage is just something that you never get out of your head. But the events that took place during that deployment really had an impact on me that I tried avoiding.
As we all do.
Yeah.
Avoidance.
And
doesn't work.
I did it I was able to do it successfully for a long time because, me, I buried myself in my work, But, fast forward, I'm up at headquarters Marine Corps, and I've seen a lot of poor decisions being made regarding motor transport that cost lives. And being the senior guy now, in the influential position,
right,
I was in the position to reshape some things, and that's what I set out to do. I went through three stars during my time up there. And I tell you that I didn't get the advocacy that I should have gotten, from our senior leadership, from the 3 stars or the 1 star that was below them. And a lot of the civilian leadership that's up there is part of the problem. But what it ended up doing is it created a toxic environment for me because I'm trying to affect policy changes, reshape training to make sure that our Marines are trained in what they need to be trained in, both on the ops side and the maintenance side. And, at every turn, I was getting nothing but resistance from senior leadership. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me was we were rewriting the training and readiness manual. And that manual is the Bible when it comes to training requirements.
Right.
And we had a very poorly written one. And I had redesigned, reshaped, had new categories established that the folks at Training Command or Training and Education Command Standards Division were on board. I got to brief the director there, and because what I was proposing was outside of what they already had in policy. But once he understood why, I got the go ahead. So we had the potential to reshape things.
Right.
I got the most resistance from our own community. And what did it for me was we had a conference working group for a week in Quantico to go through the manual and prepare the draft. And the product I got out of the maintenance team was nothing. It was nothing. It was basically what we had before. So I'm like, that's not going to work. So we redid it. We redid another working group. I went down to Camp Johnson and, sat with the team that was there at 2MEF. And nobody could understand. And I couldn't get anybody on board.
Right.
And I finally threw my hands up. I said, you know what, guys, 1700, I'm heading back to Quantico. You guys figure it out and let me know what you want. I'm done. And, I had one of my master gunnies with me, Steve Copa.
I remember Steve.
Yeah. So, he rode down with me. We rode together. And I can tell you, if he wasn't in the truck with me, I'd never made it home. And things were going through my mind like crazy, you know. And so I dropped him off at his house, and then headed back home, and things just, what is my purpose? You know, I just can't trust anybody to do anything. I know what needs to get done to save lives,
Right.
you know, and I just, it got to me, you know, and I came really close to ending it, you know, and I had a pistol in my hand up against my temple and sitting in my dooryard. You know, and I looked up at the side of the house, and it's where our master bedroom is. And of course, my wife and our son came to mind, and you know, I had a moment of clarity that got me out of that moment. The next day, I had a therapy appointment with my therapist, and I knew I had to tell her. I didn't trust myself anymore at that point, because I've got tons of guns, you know, and they're all locked up in the gun safe. So when I told her what had happened, I knew what was going to happen from that point. I got got sent up to Walter Reed to be in the West Wing, 7th floor, I think, 7 West. That's where I spent Christmas of 2019. Or 2018, rather. 2018. Rough year. But, you know, out of that, I got put into programs. And I realized very quickly that when I was done with the program that I was in up there for 3 months, that it's time to retire.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's not worth it. I'm killing myself, literally. And my family's suffering because I'm bringing it home, and it's just, it's time to go, you know, and when senior leadership's no longer listening, you know, I'm in a position where I'm not effective anymore. And if I'm not effective, then I need to step aside. You know, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. You know, my passion for motor transport to a fault, really drove a lot of things, but fortunately through divine intervention, you know, I'm here today to talk about it, you know, but I was telling you, and like, you know, we avoid, we become masters at avoidance, and we use it with everything, you know, and it works for a while.
Yeah, until, you know, shit catches up to you.
Yeah, till the pot boils over.
Exactly. I think it was the same for me. And, you know, the hard pill to swallow for me was, you know, as soon as you took me in, you know, and I'm talking to the doc down at mental health, you know, this is when I used to be at the old Naval Hospital in Camp Pendleton, where Wounded Warrior is. And I'm telling her, you know, we're going through all the things, and, you know, having to surrender my weapons card to me. I don't know if you remember that one scene, and we're probably going to have to do some, you know, shout out to the movie 300. The one scene, you know, where Gerard Butler and the guy who's narrating, he's, you know, his shield is heavy, this and that, you know, the warrior, you know, and that one specific scene that I felt myself to some degree, you know, because as warriors, we associate ourselves with our TO, you know, our weapon, you know, especially us Marines, you know, shooting with iron sights, you know, I mean, that is, you know, every Marine is a rifleman. So having to give up that card, you know, well, you know, I was like, well, fuck, you know, if I don't have a weapon, what am I, you know?
Yeah.
You know, not realizing that, hey, I'm a human being. I am a person, you know, not all those things, but not that it's good or bad. It's just, that's the thing that's something a bit better in our head. So to me, that was the hardest thing. And then having to be called back to tell the colonel, and just seeing his face, and I still get teary-eyed when I tell, because, you know, what he said to me, it was like I felt like I was letting down my dad, you know, because I mean, we loved this dude. I mean, Colonel, at the time,
Lasuski.
Steve Lasuski. Yeah.
Yes.
Steve at that time, he looked at me and he had like this look on his face, and he's like, Frank, please, whatever it is that you do, don't, I think he said, like, don't do this. And you have a blank check with me to do whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself where you need to be. He said, so to me, that meant a lot, but also, I think you and I can, what would you say to a young Marine in that particular, with what you learn now, what advice would you give anybody that's struggling right now with, with that decision, hey, I'm going to become one of the 22, the statistics of the 22 that kill themselves and commit suicide on a daily basis. What would you say to somebody if you had that opportunity?
I'll tell you, the first thing I'd say is stop. Stop, take a breath, and you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing, because, we have this ego about us, especially as Marines, that we're invincible. We're invincible, and sadness and just not being able to handle things is a sign of weakness. And I've heard the argument both ways. Well, cowards, take their lives. I would argue that it takes quite a lot to make that decision.
It takes
a lot of things have to have happened to get to that point. But it takes more courage to say, I need help.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Reach out, make a phone call, do what you did that day. You called me, and I had no idea when you called me, but I could tell during our conversation something was going on. Reach out, ask for help, and if you don't know who to ask, call one of the numbers. There's crisis lines. The VA's got them. There's de-stress. Any distress line. Call before you make that decision. Call. At least try to get some intervention. It's not a sign of weakness. It takes more courage to make that phone call than it does to squeeze that trigger.
That's very true.
It does. And that's, I would put it like that to them to help put it into perspective, because, it's all about courage with us and what's more courageous. We've all been through different things that shape who we are, and it ain't that everybody has a different level, of, well, I've got a higher level than you. Everybody's level is different.
Right.
Certain things will trigger some people that won't trigger other people.
Right.
It's not a dick measuring contest.
That's for sure.
So reach out. Ask for help. That's the one message I would put out there, and I continue to put out there. Actually, reach out.
Hey Scott, I know. So if anybody has any questions regarding the Marine Corps, your experience, where can they find you? Are you still on social media, or what? Are you on LinkedIn or any of those?
So I have a profile on LinkedIn.
Okay.
My personal email is easy to remember. It's my MOS 3510 CWO at gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. My Facebook account is mine and my wife's together, so I don't associate anything with that. But with my LinkedIn account, my email, anybody wants to reach out, please do. I'll tell you, when I had got out of the hospital at Walter Reed, I was on one of the social media sites for spouses, and just trying to get a different perspective. And I picked up on a spouse who her husband was getting ready to, put an end to it.
Right.
And I had called her and got her to let me talk to her husband. and he's in the Army, young guy. And we talked for about an hour. This kid received a phone call out of the blue. And, he's still around today.
Well, maybe to that day, as any good service member is, you were his guardian angel, his battle buddy that day. And, you made an impact. I know you've made an impact on me. Like, one, I wouldn't be alive had it not. Hang on. Woo! It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I wouldn't be here literally because of you, in every sense of that word. But you also been a great friend and an awesome mentor. Even though, despite the fact that you gave me a really shitty nickname, Hoochie Mama.
I don't even remember where that came from.
I think it was because the word, that was a famous word, at the time, and everybody's calling it Hoochie, but it stuck with me. And pretty much in those close within our circle know that nickname, but I guess everybody knows it now. But, to finish what I was saying is that, in every sense of the word, you've been a great friend, mentor, brother, just about, and a guardian angel. Well, shit, that's for sure. So, but, and I just want to say thank you, and I love you, brother. We're pretty much getting at the time hack, but definitely, I would love to bring you back and dive deeper into some of the other cool stories that you got when you were in your deployments, because I know you have a shit ton.
Got to worry about statute of limitations.
Yeah, I know, right? But hey, Scott, thanks so much for joining our show, brother. Please give a big hug and a kiss to the family over there back home. And is it okay if we bring you back some other time, bro?
Sure, absolutely. Just stay in contact.
Yeah, I sure will. But what we're gonna do, from here, is basically, I'm just gonna tell the audience that, it's okay to be down. It's okay to be, sad. All those things are okay. What's not okay is,
do nothing about it.
Yeah, and then taking basically that next step, which it just has such a huge ripple. Now sitting on the other side of the fence, it's just, that's one life that's gone, one family that will not have that individual for Christmas. A brother, a sister, a husband, a wife, all those things that it just, unfortunately, they're not here anymore.
Right.
But thanks so much, brother. I appreciate it. With that being said, to everybody else out there in God's country, is basically, if you have any questions to anybody, you can reach out to Scott. If you're having a hard time, reach out to myself, reach out to the VA, reach out to anybody in your chain of command, or a friend or a family, but don't take that next step. I love you. Thanks so much, everybody. We're going to end this right here because I am out of here. Hoorah, get some.